The city of Arcopolis thrummed beneath my feet, an intricate web of lights and shadows, dreams and despair. I ducked into an alley, narrowly avoiding a cascade of metal shards as an Aegis drone crumbled to the ground, its algorithms fried by the electromagnetic pulse I had set loose just moments ago. The scent of ozone hung thick in the air, an acrid reminder of our desperation. I hadn't meant to draw blood today. In the twisted dance of rebellion, one moment of hesitation could mean the difference between survival and annihilation, and today I had been careless. I twisted my wrist, peering down at the wrist band I wore, a tactical UI grafted into my skin, glimmering like a second layer of flesh. It was a remnant of my old life, a reminder of the choice I had made when the visions of the future began to haunt me. The future, a sparkling apparition of impossible possibilities that seemed as attainable as the stars themselves, yet so far from our grim reality here on the ground. My pulse quickened as I cornered the blockade set up by the Syndicate, an ever-present threat lurking in the cityscape. Glancing back, I caught a glimpse of a soldier's helmet, chrome, glinting, emerging from a mob of people who had been mistakenly roped into the chaos. The people had a way of getting in my way. Just like the faces of the past, I couldn't shake the guilt of leaving them behind, the fury over the betrayal of my own kind. Bex, a voice called out from ahead, stern and heavy with sweat. A familiar figure emerged through the flickering neon, her breath ragged and caught between fear and fury. Ren, I could never quite pinpoint what we were to each other, allies first perhaps, but the weight of emotions that hung between us blurred those lines. She had always been the soul of our little cabal, passionate, headstrong, and yet so susceptible to the very heartaches I carried. Did you set off the EMP? She snapped, eyes sharp against the glow of the damaged drone. You told us to lay low this evening. Circumstances changed. I shot back, trying to keep my voice steady. The truth lay somewhere beneath layers of justification. In a world where the impossible had become the modus operandi, I had to grasp for solutions like a drowning woman reaching for driftwood. They were onto us. We needed to create a diversion. You mean you needed to play the hero? Again, she replied, arms crossed defiantly. I opened my mouth to offer a retort, but it lodged itself in my throat. I could feel the weight of her gaze. It held contempt, disappointment, and something softer, a glimmer of fear that I might indeed lead us all to catastrophe. Ren, I started, but the urgency in her movements cut me off. Her hand shot forward, grabbing mine. Come on, we need to move before they regroup. As we slipped through the maze of back streets, the ambient hum of Arcopolis fell back, replaced by the frantic rhythm of our breathing and a bottle of old-world whiskey clanking against my leg, a relic I'd picked up from the remnants of a bar only an hour prior. One drink, one fleeting moment of forgetting could mean the universe, my universe, could be reset, rewritten. The prospect tormented me. It didn't take long until the outskirts of Arcopolis loomed before us. The towers gave way to the scattered remains of the old Earth rusting stations, twisted metal, and broken dreams under the vast expanse of a twilight canopy. That emptiness was where city regulations fell apart, a no-man's land where my thoughts could stretch into the vast unknown. But I knew better than to linger, that innocence cost lives. The council will want your head for this, Ren hissed, tugging on the collar of her patched jacket, gears whirring under the surface. I can handle them, I shot back, the bravado rolling off my tongue easier than it should have. It just get us to the dock, and I won't ever look back. Which was a lie, of course. I could feel the weight of every decision pressing into my chest, a suffocating knot of guilt weaved tight with secrets I couldn't share, about what I had seen, what was to come. I risked everything for this ragtag band of dreamers overwhelmed by the madness of the Syndicate and their grip of fear over Arcopolis. You need to trust me, Ren. I know I screwed up, but if we lose faith in our freedom— Her grip tightened, and in that brief moment, time seemed to freeze. What do you see? In nothing we cannot fix, I replied, though even I could tell it was a hollow reassurance. Just, the rest of the plan is still in play, isn't it? What if this time the plan is made from your mess? She shot back. I hesitated, the pulse in my temples thrumming louder. Our existence was a series of choices masquerading as destiny, and I had just distorted the very path we had sworn to follow. At that moment, I wasn't just the dreamer of the impossible, I was becoming what Arcopolis feared most, a catalyst for a war that may end us all. The alley opened, and I saw the glimmer of the dock, bathed in a glow through the haze of an unsettled future. With every step forward, I could feel the impending storm awaiting our fate, a choice to be made yet again between chaos and the impossible dream of freedom. I reached for my pocket, fingers brushing against the whiskey, and for a moment I wondered had I already begun making the impossible real. The dock shimmered ahead, a mirage amid the gloom, beckoning us with the dim glow of bioluminescent lines tracing its edges. Once busy with the hustle and bustle of airships, transporting goods across the rooftops of Arcopolis, it now stood in disrepair, the rust-licked hulls of forgotten vessels slumped against one another like solemn sentinels. As Ren and I navigated the debris-strewn path, I could feel the unease in the air, a pressure that hinted at secrets festering beneath our feet. The further we got from the city's heart, the more I realized I had no clue what I was diving into. If the Syndicate's resources were as expansive as I feared, a direct clash at the dock could spell our doom. And yet, here I was, with resolution that felt more like recklessness. Wait, Ren halted suddenly, squinting into the shadows beyond the dock's entrance. Tell me again why we need to meet the Enigma. They're a wild card. I don't like it. The doubt in her voice was palpable, resounding with an unspoken worry. I understood her hesitation. Every time we involved the Enigma's technomancers, we ventured to the brink of betrayal. But we had reached deep into the quiet heart of Arcopolis, and the risk of inaction outweighed our uneasiness. We need information, I insisted, clenching my jaw. They know what the Syndicate plans. If we can swing the balance before the next series of strikes, we may win. Or we lose everything, she countered, her eyes searching mine for conviction that I feared I did not possess. Our truce felt precarious, teetering on the edge of trust and raw survival, yet I saw in her eyes that flicker. Talons digging into resolve, unwilling to abandon a path already set. They can help us, we just have to convince them. My mind reeled with images of arcs and spins, a quickening heart. A cavalcade of future possibilities tempting me towards the brink. Let's just get through this. I need you with me. Her expression softened, frustration giving way to reluctant acceptance. Okay, just stick close, she murmured, stepping carefully into the jagged shadows of the wharf and gesturing for me to follow. We traversed farther into the heart of decay until we reached the edges of the dock. I scanned the scene. One ship loomed larger than the others, the Aurora Phantasm, its exterior rife with the eclectic designs of Enigma artistry, mechanisms like limbs jutting from the hull, almost alive. Weeds crept up the sides, cradling silence in their green embrace. As we approached, metal doors ground open, creaking ominously. You think they're even here? Ren tossed a glance toward the dilapidated entryway, her skepticism a palpable cloak around us. I nodded, forcing a conviction I barely felt. They have to be. They wouldn't pass on this kind of intel. The interior bore the marks of innovation, pulsing screens, flickering with holographic images. Devices barely recognizable among the chaos of tech strewn about like the remnants of a frenzied creation. A bridge above absorbed the swirling energy, and below it, the remnants of the Enigma discussed ideas in hushed murmurs about interference and interconnections. We stepped carefully across the threshold as whispers danced in the air, a language I recognized yet could not decipher. Although I had encountered the Enigma before, the secrets they proffered always came at a cost, and I felt that familiar tightening around my chest. A cloak of apprehension wrapping around the thrill of possibility. Speak of the devil. A voice, smooth like quicksilver, swept through the chamber. Out stepped Kiara, Enigma's renowned technomancer clad in layers of misfitting armor, her presence commanding yet weighted. Look who has come dancing through the shadows when the sun has long set. Figured we would catch you in the middle of Arcana, I replied, forcing my bravado to the surface, though I could feel Ren's gaze heavy upon me, measuring my words. We need information on the Syndicate's next move. Desperation suits you, Bex, Kiara remarked, her gaze piercing. But do you gamble your war on information found in dreams? You might as well ask for the moon. Her words carried a hint of mockery, but beneath that caustic tone lay a measure of truth. Ren stepped forward, her voice steady and unyielding. We won't survive if we don't act first. They will strike harder, we need to be one step ahead. Kiara weighed her expression, a flicker of intrigue passing between us. And what guarantees do I have that you succeed? My people won't be caught in your crossfire. Then let the odds be with us. I shrugged, calling forth a flicker of determination, realizing all at once how stakes had skyrocketed beyond mere survival. We will validate your investment with each step we take. Was I promising too much? Yes. Yet the implication sank deeper. Hope and nightmares warred within me. Your overconfidence astounds me, Bex, Kiara replied, though curiosity sparked behind her stormy eyes. But your audacity might be worth a second glance. She stepped closer, absorbing the energy surging between us. Still, if you approach the Syndicate, you'll require more than spectral whispers from the Enigma. You need our arsenal. For a heartbeat I hesitated, weighing my options. Deal. Kiara extended her hand, and I clasped it. The connection sizzled, as if an electric pulse had shot through us. Her presence felt heavy, laden with knowledge. We meet again in the depths of the chaos then. The moment of choice will come soon. Before I could respond, she turned to the banks of screens, her fingers dancing deftly along the controls, summoning scurries of code that tumbled across the glass. I watched in fascination as she pulled up data streams, voices scuttling through the chaos, encrypted messages from the Syndicate woven into complex patterns and pathways. What are they planning? I asked, the urgency mounting in my throat. Kiara's eyes never left the screen, scanning deeply. One operation has already commenced, a diversion tactic aimed at the Ark Military District. But within that chaos, they will rely on their fourth wave deployment. Convoys poised to deliver annihilation. Ren and I exchanged a glance. Pivotal moments flickered in our joined perspectives, dangling threads connecting destiny. What do we do? Ren breathed out, doubts swirling like vapor trails behind her voice. I have a contact, Kiara replied flatly, darting her gaze back to us, something veiled behind her widened pupils. A snitch within the Syndicate, but I will require your utmost secrecy. There's no way to know who's been compromised. As the strands of our fates enveloped us in intricate patterns, my mind turned to the last conversation with a long, lost friend, Weber. The one who had chosen the Syndicate life over the wild dreams of rebellion and discovery. I suddenly wondered if I'd be forced to confront him. To reveal what became of us would invoke tragedy, yet my heart beat hard, calling me forth deeper into the shadows of Arcopolis. Kiara, I hesitated again. I'd like to be kept in the loop. She glanced up sharply at the threads of the past hanging between us, a stern acknowledgement of truth marching toward us like a tide. You may want to think twice about what you seek, Bex. Sometimes a choice requires more. Your loyalty, your heart. And with those words we realized lines had been drawn again, deep and unyielding. The tangled web of mistrust would run deeper, and as night settled upon Arcopolis, darker calamities awaited, pulling us into the very eye of the storm. In that moment, I felt them like distant stars shining against the pull of a blackened universe. I knew without a doubt that the cost of our choices lay steep and uncharted. But with every tumultuous beat of my heart, instincts shouted louder than fear. Arcopolis would be ablaze in the awakening tide of rebellion, and we were about to push the boundaries of what was possible. Would our dreams light the way, or flicker dimmer as shadows closed in? As dawn broke over Arcopolis, casting hesitant rays through the clouds of uncertainty, the city seemed momentarily still, as if holding its breath. I stood at the edge of the dock, gazing out at the tangled expanse of flickering lights and cloaked shadows. The remnants of the Enigma swirled around me, their murmurs a constant reminder of the chaos simmering just beneath the surface. I had stepped into treachery without fully understanding the depths of obligation it demanded of me, of us. Ren's presence beside me was a quiet comfort amid the growing dread. The lingering tension held between us, once charged with discontent, now trembled with a reluctant purpose. "We should go," she said, glancing toward the looming specter of the distant Syndicate towers, cutting through the morning haze like a knife. "Are you ready for this?" I asked, sensing her trepidation beneath the bravado. Her family had been victims of Syndicate oppression long before I would cross paths with the encrypted fate that awaited us. Ren hesitated, her fingers curling into fists. Ready or not, it's the only move left. With a shared, steely resolve, we turned away from the dock, our path winding deeper into the shadows of the city. The air thickened with the reverberations of unfulfilled promises and hidden agendas. It was no longer just about uncovering the Syndicate's fatal move. This was about destined sacrifices and loyalties torn asunder, emerging from the ashes of a world on the brink. The streets grew narrow as we delved into the heart of Arcopolis. People sped past us, blinded by urgency and the collective uncertainty gripping the city. They could not see the roiling storm that Ren and I had awakened. My former life as an operative for the Syndicate, the institutions I had once upheld, felt like ghosts pursuing me through the alleyways, taunting remnants of an innocence long gone. "Over there," Ren whispered, her voice cutting through the din as we approached a crumbling data hub, the flickering sign of access blinking ominously in the half-light. Weber's name floated into my mind, the last thread connecting me to the Syndicate, the only echo of the past I had yet to sever. My heart sank as I remembered the whispers that labeled him a traitor. I had to confront the specter of my own choices reverberating within that bond. The hub was a remnant of an era long discarded, wires frayed and exposed, begging to be touched. I pressed my palm to the terminal, the momentary staccato of memories splashed across my mind's eye, swirling images of Weber and I, of laughter and burgeoning hope, countered by his growing allegiance to a force I had chosen to resist. I activated the connection, and chaos erupted around us in flickering visuals and messages flaring across the interface. Every swipe absorbed dangers hidden in the lines. Glimmers of Syndicate communication lit up the screen, revelations draped in garbled code that danced through my veins, a code I understood all too deeply. I glanced up to find Ren watching me, her expression quelling any lingering doubts. "Can you read it? Enough to know they're deploying the fourth wave tonight." My voice wavered as my fingers danced over keys. "We have to warn the Council." "Wait, that's a cop. Out." I turned to face her, my gaze steady. "The Council has resources we don't. If we can alert them, they'll just get themselves killed. They'll never believe us now. You know what they think of radicals." Her voice rose above the tension, stabbing into the doubt swimming inside me. The weight of my own convictions pressed heavily on my shoulders as I wrestled with shared ideals. We can't put more lives in jeopardy without a plan. A flash of anger ignited in her eyes. "And what? Sidestep the fight. We're meant to face this, Bex. We can't march into slaughter." Silence hung between us, fraught with the rawness of our emotions. My heartbeat thundered alongside the rising tide of conflict that threatened to cascade from our shoulders. The truth cracked open like a fragile shell, revealing the fear beneath. We were teetering closer to the precipice with every hard word exchanged. Could we even trust each other if we could not trust ourselves to do what felt right? "Bex, don't pull this crap with me." She took a step closer, her hands trembling, dragging the cobwebs of dissent that twisted around our alliance. The battle within creating fissures around us felt dangerously alive. These walls held memories I'd pushed aside to bring me here, and here we were again caught in the web of choices demanding sacrifice. "Ren, I'm tired of losing people I care about. Let's think of another route." My voice cracked as I rallied my thoughts, reaching for our shared warmth amid the tremors. "We can find another way to stop this madness. That's exactly what we've been doing." Bex, thinking of ways to wiggle out of change, she shouted, refusing to let her forehead yield to my persuasion. Well, what leads to change? Conflict, sacrifice, not hiding behind screens. Just as her anger surged, the hub shuddered violently, lights flickering with an electrical shock. "What's happening?" I whispered. My heart raced. The syndicate's grip tightened around us, suffocating and encompassing. "Shit, we have to get out of here." As we stumbled backward, figures emerged from the shadows of the data hub. The familiar feel of well-trained operatives cloaked in syndicate gray, armed and relentless. Weber stood at the forefront, a twisted grin creeping across his familiar features, tinged with malice. Well, Bex, you seem to be lost. Don't do this, Weber," I pleaded, but the words hung unfulfilled, futile. "We're not your enemies. We can stop this." His laugh shattered the tension. It rang hollow, a haunting echo of camaraderie now twisted and forlorn. "I'm afraid you don't get it. I'm the one doing the stopping. Your little rebel group has had its time." Ren stepped forward, pushing me behind her, determined, eyes ablaze. "We already know where your loyalties lie. You're just a pawn in their game. Please, Ren." I reached for her hand, desperation gripping my heart, but she shot me a hardened look, drawing her resolve. "Don't hold me back, Bex." "Hey, is that what you expect? You think they'll just let you walk away after what you've seen?" Weber stepped between us, pride glinting in his eyes. "They don't see you like I do, Ren. You're a fleeting ghost in my path. The reality is unfurling. There's no room for weaknesses." Everything around me seemed to pulse with a wild energy as Ren and Weber squared off, forcing me into a corner I never wished to navigate. I could feel the strains of friendship cracked under pressure, the heart oak splitting as ideological battles waged silently all around us. "I won't abandon what I believe," she thundered, her voice fierce, stripped of any lingering doubt. "And neither will I when the truth stands before us." In that moment, a realization cut deep within my own heart. It wasn't just the syndicate that clouded judgment. It was the unwillingness to confront ourselves, our connections tested by the choices made in dire need. The rawness of treachery surged like an unseen wave ready to drown us all. "We'll end this here," Weber challenged, his tone thick with danger. "Both of you, one way or another, I'll see you taken down for your insubordination. The Council won't understand the state of the truth when I reveal what you've done." I fought against the swell of hopelessness, a rattling surge within my chest that threatened to break free. "Then take me with you." "I'll go back, I'll talk. We can find common ground." Enough, Ren erupted in defiance. "Bex, stop playing with fire. You think he's ever going to save this city?" Every word landed like a hammer against the remnants of my heart, a struggle for understanding where once harmony had flowed. Weber's features darkened with twisted malevolence as he stepped closer to Ren, prepared to strike. "Your naivety will be your undoing, girl. The syndicate's grip won't loosen just because you want it to." Suddenly, alarms blared around us, wreaking chaos in the air. The building vibrating as operatives received buzz-laden communications messages warning of a betrayal gone awry. My instincts kicked into high gear. Ren and I shared a fleeting glance, understanding blooming anew, the depth of our resolve fueled by passion, purpose, and the echoes of our trembling past. "And now is our moment," I breathed, instinctively reaching for Ren's hand, a tether between chaos and hope. "We must fight together." "Together," she echoed, the remnants of uncertainty flickering anew. Fueled by an electric pull as an invisible current connected us, we retreated step by step, the lights dimming, shadows looming larger. Weber clutched his sidearm, uncertainty flickering across his eyes, prepared to lunge. "Bex, stop," he yelled. "This is madness," and madness it was. Whether we were stepping into sacrifice or liberation, freedom beckoned wisely, almost bearable. I pushed us forward, weaving skillfully through the daunting darkness until we burst out of the trembling walls of the data hub, back into Arcopolis' uncertain embrace. The city was on the precipice of change. That much I felt swirling through the tendrils of fate. But with every step we took, I could hear Weber's voice ringing behind us, laced in loss and coming repercussions. As the first glimmers of light lit the way forward, uncertainty lit a brightness within me, unshackling visions that danced like whispers of choice, not just for platforms and conviction, but anchored in the bonds we forged amid the embers of conflict. Now what? Wren gasped as we stumbled into the chaos beyond, urgency driving urgency. We need to connect with the council before it's too late, I replied, a pounding rhythm echoing through my veins. I could feel the threads weaving tighter, pulling us into paths of potential danger and uncharted territory. Let's just hope we can make them listen, she murmured, and I could see the resolve deepening in her expression. As new waves of sound surged towards us, we dove into the city with a sense of purpose. The lines between past and future blurred, a heady mix of rebellion and intertwining dreams leading us down an unmarked path. With every step, I grappled with truth and conviction, a whisper that echoed through my mind. Nothing would stand in our way, and nothing could bring our dreams dimmer, even if it took every ounce of destruction that history had etched upon our souls to craft a new legacy. And yet, as the storm waited for us in the distance, I contemplated the cost, pondering how a single choice would shape the tides of destiny that loomed beyond. The battle for the future of Arcopolis awaited, and I felt the weight of it settling against my shoulders. Resolved, I squared my jaw and stepped forward into chaos framed by embers, where dreams hung suspended between despair and hope. We can do this, I reassured Wren as we plunged into the unknown. Together, we can change everything. But deep down, uncertainty clawed at me. A glimmering foreboding of the battles yet to come, the fractured pieces of loyalty laid bare against the backdrop of a city ready to rise, challenge, and break free. The cacophony of Arcopolis enveloped us as Wren and I sprinted through crowded streets, struggling to maneuver among throngs of oblivious civilians, each blocked by their own navigational grief, whatever it might be on this fateful day. Through the din, the syndicate's shadows stretched wide, their influence staining the air, thick, suffocating, clinging like a distant ghost. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if we didn't have to run? I shouted over the pulsating chaos, desperate for any distraction from the tightening knot in my gut. With every step, the burden of our decisions pressed heavier against my chest. I mean, what if we actually built something real, something we could protect? Wren shot me a glance, her brows furrowing. That is not how it works, Bex. We can't just build a world without tearing down the one we have. Her words cut deep, reminding me of the stakes, but somewhere inside me, that flicker of hope, of possibility, pushed against the walls of my mind. But if we're successful, then what? Isn't that hope enough to fight for? Hope is one thing, reality is another, she replied, her voice tinged with weary wisdom. Before I could respond, her attention was arrested by the rising drone thrums above ominous shapes, darting through the low-hanging clouds. The syndicate's watchful eyes skimming the streets like metallic specters. As if charged by the air around us, my tactical UI hummed to life. The wristband flickered, displaying an array of newly gathered data. We need to reach the council, but it seems they've sealed off the upper district. Sounds like they're expecting a disruption, I said, squinting against the luminous screens. There are patrols everywhere. Then we go underground. Wren nodded with fierce intent. The old transit tunnels lead straight to the upper district. They're dangerous, but it's the quickest way. Dangerous how? I asked, fear curling through me like the shadows behind us, full of activated traps. The tunnels haven't been maintained since the first wave riot. Her words sent a ripple of dread through my core, but I felt a spark of reckless determination rising to counter it. Let's do it. Together, we ducked into a narrow alley with faded graffiti murals clinging to crumbling bricks, a vestige of better times, perhaps. A moment passed before we found a rusted hatch set into the ground, its surface crisscrossed with scratches and scars of time. Wren grasped the handle and tugged, the metal screech echoing against the high walls. As the hatch swung open, stale air rushed outwards, carrying with it a pungent scent of decay and long. forgotten dreams. After you, Ren gestured with a faint smile, her bravado a bomb against the uncertainty hanging in the air. I descended into darkness, a chill gripping my spine as I flicked on my wristband's torch. A dim beam of light illuminated the tunnel's winding path, revealing twisted pipes and garbage that huddled together in fright. Here, the remnants of a forgotten infrastructure lay strewn about, some semblance of a reality lost to history. As Ren followed, the hatch clanged shut, sealing us in silence punctuated only by the distant rumble of machinery. "Ready," I whispered, steeling my resolve. "Lead the way," she replied, her voice a whisper of defiance against the gloom. We trudged deeper into the subterranean labyrinth, the glow from my UI casting eerie shadows across the walls. Dark tunnels yawned ahead, branching into obscurity like tangled roots, begging us to tread lightly among once bustling veins now stretching emptily. Once we're in position, I'll send a signal to the Council. If we can make them understand the Syndicate's moves, maybe we can rally enough forces to resist their impending attack, I said, unsure if this plan was born of logic or sheer desperation. "Right," Ren responded, her voice echoing against the chilled metal. "And if we get caught?" I paused, uncertainty biting. "Then we spring into action." Her chuckle was dry, but it provided the flicker of strength I needed. We pressed on in cautious silence, hearts beating like war drums as the city above rumbled with unseen energy, anticipation hanging thick in the damp air. As we traversed deeper, the tunnel walls glimmered slightly, faint remnants of phosphorescent paint illuminating the way. The rhythmic pulse of machinery was underscored by echoes of long, forgotten warnings announcing the Syndicate's overreaching grip, a past splintering into tragic threads that trailed along the edges of our journey. Suddenly, a low hum reverberated through the walls, rippling with menace. An alarm blared ahead, sharp and unyielding. "They're here," Ren gasped, her eyes widening. Instinct kicked in. I activated my wristband's security features. A shield flickered briefly as we darted for a side tunnel, adrenaline coursing through our veins. "We need to hurry," I said, pulling her along, the passage growing narrower as shadows enveloped us. "What about the traps?" she hissed, glancing back as our footsteps echoed hollowly. "I'll keep a lookout," I shouted, diving into the labyrinth of intertwined pathways, a race against the encroaching dread. Moments blurred as we dodged security measures that lay arrayed like silent sentinels. The gentle tremor beneath our feet signaled motion sensor pressure plates, which I bypassed just in time. A thin wire humming just overhead snapped, the whir of blades barely missing our heads. "Almost there," I urged, my heart racing toward the unknown darkness ahead. Finally, we burst into an expansive chamber, the heart of the tunnel network, illuminated by stark white floodlights from overhead. A relic of technological ingenuity and past uprisings, the space still thrummed with energy, a hub of forgotten rebellion. Systems flickered along the walls, banners of lost factions pinned haphazardly, hints of lives that had once fought against oppression, their convictions carved into the very fabric surrounding us. Over there, I pointed toward an old terminal, ancient yet somehow operational, wires snaking away like veins from its core. That's our way to communicate. Before we could reach it, a chilling sound reverberated through the atmosphere, a metallic clang signaling the Syndicate's approach as their shadows danced through the doorway we had come from. "Bex, we need to barricade." Ren's voice crackled with urgency as she began piling crates against the entrance. I joined her, the weight of our situation settling grimly around me. "We can't afford to get captured. If they find us," my voice trailed off, engulfed by the inevitability of what lay ahead. Shackles and silence, a reminder of every failure haunting our quest for freedom. "They won't find us," she said fiercely, sweat glimmering on her brow. "Not if we're smart about this." As footsteps grew louder, urgency surged within me. With a few swipes of my wrist, I activated the terminal, its ancient lights coming to life with a faint buzz. "Let me handle the signal," I instructed, my focus narrowing on the screen. "Be quick," Ren murmured, her eyes darting toward the door as panic simmered on the edges of composure. Lines of code flooded my view, tightening my focus, and I concentrated hard, drawing on every resource I had left, rushing to contact the council, quickly figuring out the encryption protocols using the remnants of my training. I patched myself into the network, praying to the elusive gods of fate that they would heed the call. Straining to hear the report of approaching feet, I barely registered the sound of Ren furiously bracing their barricade against the encroaching threat. Screens flickered like whispers of light, and just when I thought I had lost the connection, a glowing series of notifications appeared. "Come on, please," I muttered, fingers flying across the interface, adrenaline fueling a cascade of code that hung in the air, barely keeping the sound of our enemies at bay. At that moment, static crackled through the system, a wavering connection fighting to stabilize, and then, their voices muffled but inarguably recognizable. "Who goes there?" I needled forward, lowering my voice to keep calm. "Council, we have urgent news about the Syndicate's fourth wave deployment. The city stands on the brink of chaos. Bex." A shocked voice rang out, a resonant echo of past alliances. It was Councilman Thorin, his gruff tone remarkably grounding amid the turmoil. "You have to be careful. We thought you were well. It doesn't matter." "What's happening?" "A maelstrom is readying for an attack tonight," I rushed. "The Syndicate has information, believe me. We are in the tunnels now, and the patrols are closing in. You have to mobilize." The response was immediate. "How do we know you're not feeding false intel?" "You have been. We've come back for the city, not to hide in the shadows," I barked. "You have to listen." The terminal screen flickered. It felt like eternity tugged at the thread of our shared urgency. "We'll mobilize alongside you. No time to lose. Get that information to us, and we'll prepare defenses." But the room erupted into chaos. The door shuddered violently as our barricade was pounded from the other side, a low growl emanating from the Syndicate operatives preparing to breach. "Bex, they're here," Irene shouted, her eyes wide with adrenaline-fueled determination. "Enough chatter." Thorin's voice boomed, laced with authority I half-heartedly wished for. "You need to get out now." I yanked the wires free, slinging my wrist, and while shoving Ren to the wall beside me. Just as the barrier splintered with a bone-crushing sound, I made a split-second choice that would soon spill into actions surrounding our fateful escape. With rapid urgency, I pressed Ren down as I whispered a plan, a distraction and a gambit against the encroaching shadows. "Follow my lead, I'll create a diversion." She nodded, her jaw set, and a flicker of shared resolve ignited between us once more. Just as the door burst open, smoke billowed into the room, emanating from a small grenade I activated, filling the chamber with clouds of obscurity. Syndicate operatives faltered, their figures swallowed by the darkness as my heart thundered in my chest. "Now," I shouted, the smoke swirling as I launched us through an access hatch on the opposite side of the room. The exit led deeper into the underbelly of the city, but away from the initial chaos. Raw urgency blazed through my veins as we sprinted down the tangled passages, our sense of urgency intertwined with the weight of purpose. Suddenly, we stumbled upon an access grate leading back up into the streets, an escape route revealed beneath flickering lights. "We need to go," Ren yelled, rocketing upward just as the Syndicate regained footing in a darkened chamber filled with confusion. We clambered out into the light, gasping as we emerged onto the pavement, the world of Arcopolis alive around us, pulsating with uncertainty. "Did we make it?" I murmured, catching my breath, stunned by the abruptness of freedom that filled the air surrounding us. "Just keep moving," she breathed, and we stumbled through the thickets of chaos that resonated throughout Arcopolis. I could feel the restless energy tugging us forward. Dreams illuminated many paths to potential chaos, and I knew this was only the beginning. As we approached the nearest crossroads, my eyes locked onto towering screens broadcasting chaotic images of unrest, shifting politics, and Syndicate propaganda fueling dissent. "We need to get to the Council so they can prepare," I urged, instinctively drawing Ren closer, but she shook her head sharply. "Not yet. We need to gather our allies." "Ally?" I echoed, confusion swirling within the frenzy of urgency. But she didn't answer. Instead, Ren suddenly yanked my arm and changed course, leading us deeper into a denser throng of people, fighting against paranoia in numbers but communal in the fierce birthing of courage. It was here, among the resistance, that our real trial awaited, a test to carve a path that could redefine our Arcopolis forever. Bex, a familiar voice cut through the chaos, and I turned to see a figure stepping forward. Griffin, our contact hidden within the fringes of the enigma. Relief surged at the sight of him, but abruptly morphed into dread as he swept his gaze over us. Things just got a lot worse. We're surrounded. What? I gasped, every feeling jarred by discontent. The syndicate's mobilizing the fourth wave, he declared, urgency brimming in his tone. They're identifying us, people intertwined in resistance. We need to dissolve into the shadows, regain our footing before the storm strikes us down. But we need to warn the council, Ren protested, her voice a wavering echo. Griffin's expression hardened. They know the price of warning. They want heads, not help. We need to improvise, or we won't even get a chance to show them the truth. I turned to Ren, a shared understanding jointed through tender curiosity. You trust him? My words hung in the air, rich with gravitas. If following is the biggest risk, she replied pointedly, instinctively taking a step closer. Maybe there's more to the truth we don't fully grasp yet. We're in this together. And together we might find what we've lost, Griffin added, stepping towards the edge, an alliance soliciting desperation through his plaid-covered gestures. I hesitated, but in that moment I felt the flicker ignite between hope and horror. Dreams of a unified resistance beckoned us closer. I saw a path through storm, evoking powerful memories of lost determination while weaving the strands connecting us all. All right, I finally conceded, breathing heavily. Let's find a way to slip through the chaos, rebuild what we had and strike back at the syndicate, a stance our people need to take. With a nod of agreement, Griffin led us deeper into the masses. The city bustled around us like a living organism, grappling with resolve and peril. We moved, an amalgamation of dreams swept into fate, hearts decorated in the colors of that yearning future. As we ventured forth, ready to reshape what lay ahead, uncertain yet lit by shared fire. As we navigated the streets of Arcopolis, a profound awareness settled within me. It wouldn't just be a battle for survival. If we were to foster a revolution and take back our freedom, we would have to brave the storm, confront our demons, and forge new paths amid the chaos. And perhaps, through it all, we could finally uncover the truth that had long eluded us. The very truth that reformed what we'd once lost, together. As the streets of Arcopolis twisted around us like the arteries of a massive organism, pulsating with the frantic energy of the awakening masses, I could feel the shifting tides beneath our feet. Shadows danced in flickering neon lights, revealing faces stricken with fear and determination. Each person bore the weight of stories not yet told, of battles not yet fought. A symphony of resilience playing in the undercurrents of despair. Griffin guided us into a crumbling building, its foundation sagging beneath the weight of history. The door creaked as we stepped into a dimly lit chamber that had seen better days. Crumpled banners and graffiti adorned the walls, remnants of past revolutions clinging tenaciously to fading hopes. A gathering of familiar faces awaited us, rebels and allies huddled together in quiet conversation, their whispers a tapestry of accumulated knowledge and strategy. Bex, Ren, Griffin called, drawing attention as we entered. We've made it. This is the heart of our collective resistance. He gestured broadly, a beacon of certainty amid the shrouded uncertainty. Heads turned to us, a flicker of recognition mingling with trepidation. They knew well the stakes we faced, the depth of sacrifice demanded if we ventured further down this perilous path. I felt the weight of their expectation hanging in the air. We need to develop a strategy for the incoming fourth wave deployment, I declared, standing at the center of the room, heart racing. If we can't stem the tide, we won't survive. We have to stop them from launching their attacks and leverage our unified strength to turn the syndicate's forces against them. A round of murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wren stepped forward, her fierce determinism lighting a fire in her piercing gaze. We've all suffered under the syndicate's grip for too long. It's time we join forces and confront them head on. Her emphatic words swelled in the atmosphere, igniting an unquenchable longing for change that resonated deeply amongst us. But there were doubts, too. I could see it in their eyes. Their determination clashed with their fear, the battle-worn scars of the past threatening to unravel all that we hoped to achieve. Just then, a familiar figure stepped forward, Thorin, the councilman, emerging from the shadows like a guardian angel reborn. What strength is left in the council to take back control now? He asked, skepticism lacing his tone. You think rallying these people makes any difference when they have already declared war? We are more than just bodies throwing ourselves against an enemy, I retorted, holding his gaze steadfastly. We are families, friends, loved ones, the very fabric that bonds our city together. We have the power to reshape this reality. Together, we can ignite a revolution. The room was silent for a heartbeat, a pulsating pause filled with the tension of unspoken fears. Finally, a figure I recognized stepped forward. It was Cal, a fierce strategist known for her unwavering loyalty and formidable intelligence. She nodded slowly, her unraveling of doubts mirroring the doubts I had fought so hard to quell within myself. She's right. We can dismantle the syndicate's structure from within. We have the knowledge crucial to subverting their hold. If we deploy the right tactics alongside their patrols, we might just flip the control back in our favor. Griffin chimed in, but we'll need to act fast. We have intel suggesting their deployment will commence when the sun sets. Time is of the essence. We need to coordinate on multiple fronts, Wren suggested, eyes gleaming with fiery determination. If we can fracture their supply lines, we can sow confusion and disrupt their operations. She turned to the group, excitement thrumming through the air. I've seen their logistics network firsthand, and I can map out their routes. We'll need teams to stake out each target. We hit hard, we hit fast. I felt the collective murmurs swell again, a tide of belief wrapping around us. We're with you, someone called out from the back, fists pumping in agreement. One voice became two, then three, and soon the room erupted into a chorus. A unified calling that echoed off the walls, a promise that we were not alone in this fight. We began forming teams, organized urgency igniting the room as we outlined our objectives. Each member brought forth their skills and knowledge, a patchwork of strengths weaving together in coherence. The absence of fear transformed, morphing into spine-tingling anticipation. Cal and Griffin paired with Wren to draft a logistics plan, while Thorin took on communications, working feverishly to ensure our message cut through the syndicate's propaganda like a blade through smoke. In that chaotic swirl of ideas and plans, I felt a short breath escape my lungs, an awareness seeping in. Everything I had fought for, every dream tethered to the motivations of the past was here, intertwined with every heartbeat in that room. Together, we sought to rekindle hope, the flames of rebellion rising, refusing to be snuffed out. Here's what we need to do, I said, gathering everyone's attention as I stepped forward once more. We'll deploy in 3 waves. First, we'll disrupt the supply routes. Second, we'll create diversions that draw the syndicate away from our core coalition here. Lastly, we'll converge for the final strike, and together we will reclaim Arcopolis. A palpable energy filled the space as we fine-tuned our battle plans. The remains of our previous lives flickered like memories carved into our hearts, lives that longed for freedom and hope, lives requiring a reckoning. And all at once, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the world in hues of amber and gold, we were ready to rising from the ashes. The light of day dimmed as we slipped into our respective roles, fractured yet united, a powerful cacophony emerging in the twilight. Wren, Griffin, and I grouped our teams, and as the clock ticked closer to sunset, worried eyes turned toward me. I'll be on the front lines, I said determinedly. We'll disrupt the core of their operations. There's no going back. Are you ready? Each of them nodded, some murmuring affirmatives, while others clenched fists, the temperature of excitement mixing with tantalizing dread. Let's do this, I whispered, the spark of optimism igniting one last time before we plunged into the heart of Arcopolis, the heart of rebellion flaming anew. With the last slivers of sunlight vanishing on the horizon, we scattered through the winding streets. I led my team toward a supply depot in the industrial district, marked on Wren's map like an exposed nerve, vulnerable and ripe for action. I could feel the rising energy coursing through us, transforming fear into unwavering resolve. "Hold tight," I instructed, sensing the approach of our first target just ahead. The air crackled, tastes of danger strung taut among our breaths. My UI flickered, displaying vital countdowns and pathways, illuminating the path we would take to break through the layers of oppression layered above us. The encroaching shadows of the syndicate closed in, a reminder of the stakes edging closer. As we descended deeper into the underbelly of the depot, the shadows crept closer, wrapping around us in anticipation. The low hum of machinery vibrated beneath our feet, each sound betraying the livelihoods tethered beneath this shifting surface, a reminder of everything that had been lost. I led the way through dim alleyways, the weight of my companions behind me a reassuring presence. Each step echoed with a purpose tension seeped through the air like a storm cloud brewing on the horizon, sharp senses attuned to every sound as we approached the central chamber. I crashed into the chamber door, the cacophony announcing our arrival. "Here we go," I muttered, a mix of excitement and anxiety igniting within as the lights above us flickered ominously. The room lay sprawled like a chaotic web of crates and automated machinery. My heart raced, adrenaline surging with the force of conviction as I took in the scope of our surroundings. Deploy the charges. The machines operate effectively, but they're clustered in a predictable line. I directed to my team, we'll detonate. Last thing they'll expect, and it'll cause chaos. The others responded with murmurs of their own prepping charges, forming a strategic plan. I didn't have to look over my shoulder for reassurance. The camaraderie simmering in our steadfast determination bound us. To fight, to reclaim, to live. Unbeknownst to us, however, danger loomed on the horizon. Sigils of the syndicate's cracked presence hung loosely around the corner. Shadows moved like lethargic ink, hideously tangible as operatives began to take positions. We had only a moment before the monsters within the darkness revealed themselves. "Hide," I hissed as we scrambled for cover, adrenaline thrumming like a heartbeat in my ears. An officer, marked with the syndicate's crest, stepped toward our last cached supply. "Faster," I urged, whispers muted under breaths of anticipation. We crouched low, hearts racing as technology flickered back to life, rhythms of rating pulses escalating between us. Footsteps grew louder, the air thickening before we held our collective breath, tiptoeing on the precipice of momentary safety. Just as they crossed our path, we launched into chaos. I triggered the charges, and the world erupted. Flames burst into chaos and confusion, a raucous roar echoing through the depot. I could feel the heat from the blast wash over me as the machines crumbled under the unruly wave of primal emotion. The panic in their faces was palpable. Screams fractured in the air as they fled before our charge. "Move," I shouted, leading the way forward as we rushed through the exploding debris and fragmented walls. Behind us, the chaos cascaded outwards, an orchestra of rebellion shattering the past. We stormed out into the open, and before long, the familiar buzzing of drones filled the air, a sharp contrast to the muffled thrum of chaos we had left behind. Staring back at the depot engulfed in flames, I knew this was just the beginning. The city felt alive around me, awakening from slumber and realizing the war ahead. Breathless, I surveyed the chaotic scene around me, and I could see formation arriving, more of our allies emerging from the darkness, illuminated by fierce determination. Wren and Griffin swept beside me, excitement etched onto their faces, their eyes glinting with victorious fire. "Did you see that?" Griffin laughed, disbelief hanging on the edge of reality. "We actually did it," Ren turned to me, her smile intoxicating, a mixture of pride and defiance reflecting back. Let's keep moving. We've got more to cover. Thus, we rallied our forces, stirring the vibrations of hope anew, aiming for the next steps. We dashed through the street, weaving into the known shadows, our presence felt amid the pulse of rebellion electrifying Arcopolis, an unstoppable tide crashing against the walls of the Syndicate. In harmony we moved, and I could feel it deep within me, as if the very essence of life flowed through our veins. With every confrontation we endured, the fear receded, woven together with the truth of our purpose. As night wore on, the oppression hanging in the air thickened even further. We infiltrated one stronghold after another, carving a path through the Syndicate's hold with swiftness and grace. Each target hit created ripples, both literal and metaphorical. Sent through the fabric of the city, we fought to defend. Approaching the eastern checkpoint, I whispered into my wristband, taking stock of our next target. We've got to strike before they mobilize against us. Roger that, came Ren's voice, cool but crackling with strength. We're ready to roar. Let's finish this, I replied, and before I could second guess myself, we slid into the shadows once more, prepared to unleash our strength on what lay ahead. In the heart of darkness, dreamers like us were transforming into warriors. We descended into the eastern checkpoint, the tension heavy in the air, punctuated by the ticking clock and our collective breaths mingling as we blended into the chaos. The Syndicate operatives had moved in SWATs, but they were unprepared for our combined onslaught. The instant we engaged, the darkness erupted. Machines fell like trees in the wind. Shadows disassembled in quiet panic as we thundered through the lines. Empathy surged through me, the disconnection of their beliefs unraveling under the weight of our rebellion. Push, we're almost there. I screamed over the barrage of gunfire, a surge of electric energy igniting within me. As the dust settled, we emerged from the fray, breathless and fueled by a wild longing for liberation. The checkpoint had been liberated, shaken to its core. Our forces gathered once more, a chorus of strength that climbed higher along new pathways of trust. But as we stood together beneath dim lights, surveying the ruins of oppression falling around us, a presence emerged from the shadows, a familiar silhouette clad in the Syndicate's armor. Weber stepped forward, face obscured by shadows but unmistakably resolute, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Bex," he called, voice electrifying the air. "You think you're the only one fighting for the city. Just remember, you're not alone. This will end one way or another. You think blinding hope will save you. We will not fall victim to your despair," I shouted, meeting his gaze head on. The Syndicate's reign over Arcopolis is over. The room held its breath, uncertainty crackling in the air. Weber's laugh echoed through the silence, cold and disillusioned. "Hope is fragile. Just like your resolve," he warned, raising a hand signal that abruptly sparked renewed chaos among his ranks. The Syndicate reinforcements bashing through bullet-laden walls, a wave of defiance surging back upon us. "Watch out," Ren called, urgency punctuating her voice. "Hold your ground," I bellowed out as we surged forward to counteract their momentum. In that moment, I felt belief yawning within me, a fire igniting through every inch of my being. Yes, it would be chaos just as we fought through flames, but together we continued to push. Each heartbeat thrummed anew with conviction and rhythm, and we knew this was only the beginning of awakening the soul of Arcopolis. We rallied our forces, a chaotic cacophony rising against the backdrop of uncertainty, chords of hope resonating alongside the essence of freedom, beating like wildfire through the shadows. With one last push, we were ready to take the city back. The tides had turned. As dusk fell deeper in the city, we chased the shadows of dreams, rising again with the fiery resolve to ignite hope, reclaiming Arcopolis from the grip of despair. An unstoppable current melding all of our stories together, woven in time, ready to fight for a better world. And together, we did just that. The final strike came without preconception. Our forces rallied under banners once torn asunder, the pulse of rebellion pulsing through us in unison. We surged against the syndicate with the weight of 1,000 lost dreams held firmly in our hearts, their oppressive presence soon trembling beneath the fervor of our charge. Griffin, Wren, and I pushed to the forefront, rallying our allies as echoes of hope cascaded through the battle. Weary streets. Each faction banded together, united by the cause born of countless sacrifices. A testament to the rising tide of resistance that thrummed within the remnants of Arcopolis. With every step, we crushed former lives turned enemies, dismantling glittering machinations of the syndicate's power structure with fierce love. The brutality of unity against the dark bellows of oppression echoing back to us. I pushed deeper, a promise forged in pain guiding me toward the radiant spark of freedom we so desperately craved. And as the syndicate's grip fractured once and for all, I could feel the weight of the world shift, inching us all closer to the freedom our hearts had long desired. Together, we would reclaim our narrative. With the sun just peeking over the remnants of the fallen storage tower, the battle waned into quieter moments of reflection, surrounded by illuminated embers still burning brightly amidst the chaos. In the throes of victory, breaths mingled with laughter and whispers of triumph, as faces filled with grit and resilience came together to witness the dawn of a new day. In the heart of Arcopolis, the tide had finally turned, the shackles of despair crumbling as light poured in from every crack, illuminating the way forward toward rebirth and redemption. In that moment of stillness, the city breathed inhaled growth and the energy of something precious past the shadows. Turning to my comrades, I felt an inexplicable surge within me. Together we fought, I said, drawing nearer to Wren and Griffin, our eyes blazing with the spirit of survival. Together we will rebuild. And as we stood, stepping into the dawn of a new era, one truth resonated louder than ever before. As long as we carried hope in our hearts, futures could unfold unencumbered by fear. This time, we would write the narrative, we would redefine what it meant to dream anew and to stand tall with resilience, creating a legacy unbound by the shackles of our past. The final battle against the syndicate had been fierce, but here we stood, vividly alive, a collective spirit unified by the bonds of our stories, ready to forge the new world. With hands held tightly together, we faced the promise of a brighter dawn. And so, with every heartbeat, we stepped forward as dreamers, as warriors, a symphony of hope, a narrative renewed. The golden rays of dawn stretched across Arcopolis, bathing the city in an ethereal glow that sparkled against the remnants of last night's chaos. It felt as if the very heart of the city had beaten back against darkness, throwing its arms wide to welcome the light of a new beginning. Among the rubble where destruction had thrived, hope sprouted as defiance, the phoenix rising from the ashes. I stood at the pinnacle of what once had been the syndicate's central hub. The remnants of shattered glass and metal periodically reflected the sunrise, casting playful glimmers on the battered surface. Wren, Griffin, and a throng of our loyal allies gathered around me, forming a circle amidst the fractured past, the air thick with possibility. Today is not just a victory, I began, my voice steady and resolute against the gentle hum of the charged morning. It's a chance to reclaim our future. A wave of quiet murmurs rippled through the crowd, as if they were drinking in the warmth of hope. We're the architects of our own destiny now, Wren added, stepping forward beside me, her fierce gaze searching the faces around us. Each challenge we faced has forged us into something greater, something unbreakable. We will rise together. Her words ignited a flicker of enthusiasm that breathed life back into our coalition. Victoriously, we had taken back a pivotal stronghold, but now we needed to build upon this fragile foundation and crown it with a purpose that would eliminate the specters of fear forever haunting our city. Griffin raised a hand, clasping the wristband that tracked the remnants of the syndicate's forces. We've scattered their command, but have yet to truly dismantle the structure they've weaved deeply into Arcopolis. To rebuild, we must cut the head from the serpent. A low murmur of agreement flicked through the gathering. Recognition spread across the faces I had come to know. They understood the stakes. Rebuilding required more than recent victories. It demanded a strategy steeped in unity and strength. Griffin's right, I affirmed. With the full remnants of the Syndicate now splintering, we can finally seize this opportunity to cut off their remaining influence. We need to target their command center. Now more than ever, the Council needs to act decisively. I scanned the crowd, the anxiety pooling beneath the brave faces, each person grappling with the reality of our newly born alliance. We have to deploy immediate reconnaissance teams. I need volunteers. One raised hand, then another, punctured the air like sunbeams breaking through overcast skies, rising optimism buffeting my spirit, echoing what we had just carved from memory last night. Within a matter of minutes, we assembled tactical squads, team leaders emerging from the original core of our rebellion. Thorin stood to one side, wearing his usual gruff exterior, but flanked by a sense of renewed purpose. Counselor, I nodded, grateful to have him as an ally by my side. You'll need to broadcast a call to the citizens of Arcopolis to rally them to join our cause. They need hope as much as we do. They can't just sit back while we dismantle the remnants of oppression. Understood. Thorin clasped my shoulder firmly, his pride radiating through the gesture. The Council is ready to lend its strength, but this time we will unify our voices, no more divisiveness. As we split into teams, the air shifted, weighted with possibility. Responsibilities dispersed meticulously among eager hands, and a fervent tension buzzed around the gathering. I paired up with Wren and Griffin as we nurtured our plan. We're scouting the western sector where intelligence suggests a buildup of Syndicate strength. We'll monitor for movement, gather intel, and hopefully dismantle their operations in the process, Wren said, enthusiasm sparking her voice. Right. If we can map their strategies, then we can utilize every advantage to outmaneuver those who threaten to spread fear, Griffin added, fire stroking the normally tempered surface of his resolve. We set off in a crisp wave of energy, navigating the winding, once bustling streets of Arcopolis. Remnants of yesterday's fight adorned every corner, both in shattered glass and graffiti murals detailing our newfound allegiance. Hope was written in red and blue strokes. Defiance echoed through the bones along the ruins. Moving as shadows, we slid through the remnants of chaos, knowing we must remain vigilant, each footstep borrowing gravity from the whispers of countless spirits, relics of fear envisioning tomorrow, morphed with dreams of liberation. After several hours later, we crested a ridge overlooking a crumbling structure, columns crisscrossed with electric wiring, signifying the old power stations once sustaining the Syndicate's hub. We dropped to a squat position, breathless with cautious anticipation. The scanners show movement ahead, I whispered, my UI illuminating routes in our periphery. It looks like they are regrouping here. They haven't been able to recover fully. Wren peered into the shadows, analyzing the scene as the silhouettes of Syndicate operatives flickered in and out of reality. We'll need a distraction. We can't confront them without ensuring an element of surprise. Griffin nodded, a plan already beginning to form in his mind. Let me seed a remote detonation in their power lines. If I can sabotage their power grid, they'll be thrown into chaos. From there, we can move swiftly. Be careful, we'll cover you, Wren chimed in, determination glowing in the depths of her fierce gaze, forever a guiding light among the shadows. As Griffin slid into the shadows, I felt an unyielding pride surge within me. I had forged this alliance, and I could sense the strength that had already morphed us from fear, driven rebels to unyielding warriors. Minutes gloriously stretched before me, tension hanging delicately above us as each moment swirled through waves of possibility. After a heartbeat, a sudden explosion erupted as the power lines detonated, showering sparks along the remains of the Syndicate observation platforms. Go! I shouted, adrenaline propelling us forward, arms raised against the sudden flash of brilliance lighting our way. Our squad advanced, crashing headlong into the fray as the operatives snapped into action around us, trying to regain control amidst the chaos. Ren, ever an agile mover, darted in and out as her feet whispered across the debris, taking down the nearest enemy with fluid determination. I felt the rhythm of our shared goal intertwining seamlessly with every move we took, every breath we shared. Over here, Griffin's voice rang through the turmoil, guiding us toward the central command within the crumbled foundation of the previous complex. Together we fought, battering back against the Syndicate forces still trapped in the chaos, reclaiming what had once thrived among the shadows. A surge of exhilaration pulsed through my veins as we burst through the inner corridor of rubble and ruins, and I felt the collective will guiding us as our hearts hummed in time with the chaos unfurling around us. Clear, Ren called, breathless when we breached the final entryway into the heart of the command center itself, where key operatives frantically navigated through data streams. Bex, Ren shouted, urgency sparking in her eyes, locking on to the closest terminal stationed at the back of the room. We can unveil their plans. Let's do it, I replied, half, jogging toward the control panel, fingers hitting the keys fiercely, desperate to extract information that would cripple their operation. The UI illuminated before me, shifting rapidly, data flowing like lifeblood, insight coursing through the command center like whispers of treachery buried deep within the Syndicate. Within mere moments, I was scrolling through plans, maps detailing their routes and projected exchanges of supplies now visible before my eyes. I pulled everything necessary. Records of their remaining movements resonated heavily. We'll ignite the final push. Time to let Arcopolis know just how fractured the Syndicate truly is. Bex, they're regrouping. Ren warned again, gaze trained on the doorway where enemy operatives began darting toward us, preparatory shouts echoing between the walls. Let's go, Griffin commanded, evoking urgency as we gathered the vital intel, slipping back into the dance of chaos that had defined our journeys together. As we dashed into the storm, the rhythmic pulse of urgency lingered, weighted with the remnants of what had been, and the bright promise of what lay ahead. Emerging into the crumbling exterior, I could see ash swirling in the air as the discord of battle rippled along our path, threatening to swallow us whole. But we were stronger now, forged anew. With the intel cradled in our hands, we would image the path forward, a culmination of dreams now rising to fiery fruition. With our mission drawing to a head, we pressed on into the storm, fueled by the hopes spiraling out of the very fabric of Arcopolis itself. The vortex of our ties spun tighter as we rushed toward the depths of our newfound rebellion, knowing full well that together we could carve our place in the mural of history, writing the next chapter upon the canvas of fate itself. As we dove further into the battle converging around us, I found clarity among the rushing waves of chaos. I could see it unfolding now, a sprawling tapestry of connection and purpose stretching far beyond what I could have possibly imagined. Arcopolis awaited the reckoning of its past, a city poised on the cusp of metamorphosis, and we stood before it as harbingers of change, ready to meet whatever storm lay ahead. In that moment, I knew this was our fight, our destiny, and together we would forge a brighter tomorrow beneath the shimmering light of the new dawn. As twilight sank over Arcopolis, the city transformed into a kaleidoscope of surreal colors painted across a canvas of shadows. My heart thrummed in my chest, a chaotic symphony mixing dread with fervor. The plan we had developed at dawn was about to unfold, one that could shatter the Syndicate's grip for good. It was now or never. Gathered at the perimeter of our Resistance's encampment, an old factory now repurposed as our sanctuary, were faces, some familiar, others new, all echoing the same burning determination that dripped tangible energy from the air. We had pressed ourselves into a tight circle, the dim fluorescent lights flickering above, casting surreal images across the walls tinged with the remnants of our fight. "We have what we need," I began, my voice steady as I scanned the crowd. Griffin and I procured intel on the Syndicate's remaining operations where they're consolidating power. We have an opportunity, a chance to cut off the lifeblood of their influence before the sun rises over Arcopolis again. Cheers erupted, echoing in waves through the makeshift assembly of warriors, but I held up my hand, a call for focus. But this will require every ounce of our strength. This fight isn't ours alone. It belongs to everyone who has suffered under the chains they've forged. We're fighting for lives, for futures. Ren stepped forward at my side, her eyes ignited with singular purpose. And what we forge now will resonate through everyone. Those who stand with us, and those who will rise with us in the future. This is our moment to reclaim Arcopolis from their grasp. Her words washed over the crowd like a soothing balm, binding us together in purpose. Griffin nodded, injecting his own enthusiasm into the air. We'll split into two forces, one to strike the Syndicate's main armory at the North District. We'll use the supplies we gather there to bolster our defenses. The other team will push to disclose their operational communications. This will cripple their organization once and for all. We infiltrate, sabotage, and execute. Safety is not guaranteed, but victory is. As Griffin rallied our troops into their designated factions, the sound of fervent agreement echoed through the enclosure. I felt exhilaration pulse in my veins. We were more than allies. We were a family woven together in war, forged by love for our city. Are you ready to change the tides? I bellowed, raising my fist to the heavens, the determination within me swelling. A roar erupted from our ranks, the moment surging with electric energy, hope sparking through our collective hearts. Ren locked eyes with me, her fierce spirit a reflection of my own. Let's go liberate our city. As night draped over Arcopolis, we moved swiftly through the shadows, sweeping through alleyways and abandoned buildings, utilizing rooftops whenever possible. The city held its breath, the energy crackling beneath the surface like an impending storm. On our first mission to the North District, reality seized my breath as we approached the Syndicate's armory, a fortress of steel and might that towered against the darkened sky. A monument to the very tyranny we fought to dismantle. My UI interfaced with the city surveillance feeds, providing a digital map entwining pathways and vigilant guard patrols. Just ahead, I murmured, fingers gliding across the interface. We should be able to slip through a side entrance near the transport hangar. We just need to be silent. Progressing towards our target, the oppressive atmosphere churned thick with urgency. Each heartbeat felt synchronized in the rhythm of our shared goal. We slid into shadows, melding into the darkness as we crept closer until we stood before the heavy door of the armory. Ready, I whispered, drawing my weapon and preparing for the unexpected chaos that lay ahead. Ren's smile was fierce and unyielding, always. With a nod, I activated the breach mechanism embedded within my wristband. The door clunked open, revealing a dim hallway strewn with discarded equipment and tight-lipped silence that seemed almost alive. We flooded in like a tide of determination, the weight of purpose against our backs as we pressed deeper into the heart of our enemy's lair. As we infiltrated the inner sanctum, the air crackled with anticipation. The hum of machinery and sporadic murmurs of Syndicate operatives filled the hallways. I signaled our team to split, the tension resting heavy against our shoulders as we navigated our way toward the armory heart, sentient shadows shifting at our behest. Ren and I braved forward, intent on gathering supplies and intel, while Griffin rallied the flank to handle any patrols that might threaten our mission's integrity. My eyes darted to each corner, maintaining vigilance as our connection coursed through every sinew of teamwork. Just a little more, I urged, feeling the steady build of adrenaline thrumming against my senses. We pressed onward until we reached the armory doors, barred yet yielding at a touch. I could feel the fervor pulsing in my veins as the lock clicked open, a heartbeat pounding against the precipice of potential. Once inside, the vastness unfurled a kaleidoscope of munitions, advanced weaponry glimmering under subdued lights. The tangible essence of both promise and peril hung heavy in the air. It's all here, I gasped. It's everything we need for the fight to come. Ren's laughter broke through the tension like the sun renewing the horizon. Let's take it all. As we fanned out, grabbing equipment by the armful, the sound of chaos erupted just outside the entrance. They're here, I hissed, determination igniting within. Ren, we need to stall them. Activate the security protocols. We need to buy Griffin some time. Dawn it, she replied, scanning the console at lightning speed. If I can trigger the lockdown, they'll be stuck trying to bypass the system. In a swift burst of calculation, Ren's fingers flew over the keys, initiating the flood of alarms that echoed throughout the armory, drowning the air with the urgency and noise that would forever shift perceptions. Bex, Ren called, urgency seeping through. We need to get ready to grab the supplies and sprinkle charges. This is our moment. I nodded, heart thrumming in chaos as I gathered supplies into our gear, adrenaline revitalizing each heartbeat. Moments later, the heavy footsteps pounded closer, the realization biting edges into focus. I could feel it burgeoning, the fight bearing against us like a storm, a reckoning of our choices surfacing into existence. The door burst open, syndicate soldiers flooding the room, weapons brandished as they rushed toward the chaos erupting from our actionable resurgence. Ren now, I shouted. She pressed forward, activating a smoke screen. A mist enveloping the room, chaotic darkness obscuring the scene, shrouding us. The shadows and light of our alliance mingled, fierce and united. We darted to the emergency access, fingers brushing against familiar metal, and as we plunged deeper into the facility, I could hear the operatives shouting orders, misguided urgency chasing us, desperate to snuff out the flickers of hope we embodied. In unison, our hearts raced as we fled past embattled shadows toward the side exit, but suddenly we were caught off, guard operatives appearing like specters from nowhere, cutting our path to freedom. Stand your ground, one of them yelled, a fearsome plume of authority spiraling in their wake. I felt Ren's arm grip mine, an electrifying lifeline that propelled us into action. Back, Bex, we need to hold our ground. The swirling chaos ensued, every fiber of my being flaring with fear and rage, each movement an elegant dance of rebellion against the tight cling of destiny. With renewed determination, we fought valiantly, our bodies weaving through combat, each jab and thrust surging vibrant resistance into our veins. I felt hope igniting within. The will pressed against despair, unstoppable forces colliding in vivid contrast. Hold the line, I cried, the intensity gripping us stronger than the shadows looming around the edges. Ren's fist connected with an enemy's jaw, her resolve radiating outward. Griffin darted in as well, matching every effort we laid bare across endless fighters burdened with fear. We fought fiercely, emboldened by our purpose. The sound of the emergency alarms reverberated, drowning the noise within the chaos. I grabbed hold of a supply crate, wheeling it around to build a makeshift barricade like a bulwark against the despair haunting our every movement. We can't give in. Push through the blindness, the fight is ours. And at that moment, everything shifted. The tide of the battle turned. Fueled by the tenacity of our spirits, we surged forward, overwhelming the syndicate operatives, each desperate clash growing fierce until we burst through the door. With renewed hope swelling, we barreled towards the exit, clutching our hard-earned supplies as echoes of shouts and alarms followed our retreat. This way, Ren yelled, leading us toward the sanctuary of the unseen alleys that smelled of sweat and power. We didn't stop running until we reached the rendezvous point, a designated area beyond the industrial lights flourishing within the vibrant chaos. Breathless, we clutched our stolen supplies, victorious souls burning bright under the cover of the illuminating night sky. We did it, Griffin exclaimed, excitement lacing his tone as the adrenaline of the chase melted into feelings of triumph. We're just getting started, I murmured, catching Ren's gaze. Her fierce expression swelled with ambition. Together we forged our bond, each tethered to our determination, our story woven amid the bright embers of the night. With renewed strength blooming, we pressed onward toward the next chapter. The final act against the syndicate still awaited us. And as we vanished into the depths of the night as unseen shadows, I felt the surge of purpose that no darkness could swallow. One that resonated throughout the city, woven into the very tapestry of who we had become. As night faded toward dawn, the stirring remnants of our triumph bled into the streets, each flicker of hope illuminating pathways for future wanderers. We would reclaim our Arcopolis from shadows, writing our destiny anew in this once forgotten world, a journey toward redemption that swirled like threads leading back to us. All the light now transforming the dark pillars of despair into a luminous dream ignited by us, the dreamers fighting to be free. And together we set forth, hands clasped against the storm, ready to rise into whatever awaited in the light beyond the horizon. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting our Arcopolis in twilight hues of purple and orange, a stark contrast to the bitter shadow of the Syndicate looming over the city. I stood on the rooftop of the old factory, the makeshift headquarters of our coalition, heart racing in sync with the distant echoes of rebellion reverberating through the streets. The air was thick with anticipation, a promise of change hung like a charged storm above us, and I could feel the current of determination in every pulse. Wren stood beside me, her gaze fixed far off, where the edges of the city blurred into uncertainty. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice steady, though the weight of what lay ahead hung heavy between us. "We've pushed so far, but now it is time to face the Syndicate in their stronghold." "More than ready," I replied, drawing in a deep breath. This was never just about survival. It was about reclaiming our future. I turned to meet her gaze, an electric flicker igniting in my chest. "Tonight, we bring down the heart of the Syndicate." The assembly area inside the factory buzzed with energy, fighters sharpening their weapons and gathering supplies, spurred on by the promise of freedom we had fought so hard to seize. I had come to see them not as mere allies, but part of an intricate web of bravery woven into our stories, a family threaded together by the shared plight against an oppressive regime. "Gather everyone," I shouted, preparing to rally our battalion one last time before we launched our final offensive. "This is our moment. We all know the stakes, and this time we unite as one body, one soul." My words resonated through the crowd as they gathered, eyes ignited with fierce purpose. Some faces I recognized from fights past, others emerging remnants of a society that could rise again from the ashes. Griffin pushed through the throng, urgency flaring in his eyes. "The Syndicate's command center is on high alert. We need to act fast. Reports suggest they're consolidating their forces, preparing for retaliation. Then we hit them hard and fast," I responded decisively. "Our intel reveals a weakness in their perimeter, a blind spot we can exploit. If we create enough chaos, we can draw their attention while we infiltrate and dismantle from within." A collective energy surged as our ragtag battalion prepared for battle. We moved as a well-oiled machine, swarming to our designated stations with resolve, ready to rise to the occasion. The city's heart pulsed beneath us, and I felt the weight of the past anchor me, grounding me in the pursuit of changing our fate. As we organized our teams, the clock ticked down to our decisive moment. Silas, one of our experts, worked swiftly on gathering digital infrastructure data from the Syndicate's underbelly. "I've hacked into their systems," he said triumphantly, a proud glimmer in his eyes. "We can utilize their own resources against them." "Excellent. Use their network to disorient them," I instructed, my voice a battle cry ringing against the walls. "Our victory is contingent on our ability to work in unison. Trust in each other. This is how we rise." Wren stepped beside me, her breathing steadying my nerves. "Are you ready? Sometimes I wonder if we're prepared to face what comes after this." "You mean the aftermath of rebuilding?" I asked, searching her gaze for the flicker of hope I knew existed within her. "Change is daunting, but we're paving the way together. We'll choose what this future looks like. Whatever it means, we'll take it on as the architects of our lives." As night settled in a heavy cloak, we moved forward, blending into the shadows, hearts pounding in anticipation, breath mingling with the air thickening around us. The streets whispered our determination, and the sheer energy of our shared resolve empowered us. Together, we crept toward the heart of the Syndicate stronghold, adrenaline surging with every silent step we took. The structure loomed ahead, fortified with security, but vulnerable to the collective wills of 1,000 voices yearning for freedom. Let's lay everything on the line, I murmured, feeling our hearts beat in rhythm. Ren squeezed my hand, a shared gesture of assurance igniting with ferocity. Remember, the light shines brightest in darkness, she replied softly, a glow lighting her features, igniting in me an unquenchable fire of hope. As we approached the stronghold's perimeter, my wristband flickered to life. An incoming text, a coded message from Scylla's. I've got a window to their defenses. Now's our chance. Move, move, move. With swift, silent urgency, we positioned ourselves near an unguarded service entrance. The door swung open with a quiet click, and we slipped inside, hearts racing. Inside, the air hummed with the low buzz of machines, soldiers bustling about their duties, unaware of the storm brewing just outside their walls. We merged into the shadows, moving as one, weaving through the meandering hallways, finally reaching a main control room alive with bright screens displaying maps and security feeds. This is it, Ren whispered, eyes sparkling as we flipped switches, scrambling to implement Scylla's handiwork. We began uploading the wormhole codes to destabilize their systems. If we can disrupt their mainframe, we'll give ourselves a fighting chance. As the countdown ticked closer, alarms blared, a sharp scream of reality crashing against our hopes. The Syndicate had been alerted. "What's happening?" the Griffin yelled, panic rising in his tone. "They're aware. We need to hurry." I focused my attention on the screens, fingers flying across the controls, injecting the virus into their systems while we braced for the storm. The room erupted into chaos as Syndicate soldiers poured in, shouting commands, instinctively prepared for confrontation. "Ren, take left. Griffin, cover the exit." I shouted, adrenaline surging through my core. We took positions, the sounds of gunfire ripping through the confines of the control room, blaring alarms cutting through our adrenaline high. But we pressed on, each blow striking back with confidence burning bright amidst the turmoil. Together, we forged forward, protecting the heart of our unified resistance. We're almost there, just a little longer. I poured every ounce of determination into the struggle, brow furrowed in concentration as the systems began to glitch and flash, their infrastructure faltering with our rebellion's essence. Breathless, we pressed into the eye of the storm, refusing to let despair bathe us in darkness. Around us, our allies fought valiantly, rallying towards our shared heart. Through laser fire and the crash of chaos, we began to feel it. The Syndicate's control waning like the last breath of night. Suddenly, the systems responded, green lights flickering across the screens momentarily in recognition of our onslaught. "It's destabilizing," Ren shouted, eyes wide. "Well, we're disrupting their entire operation." With one final breath, I slammed the last command, executing an overload of their core. A magnificent explosion resonating across the control panel as machinery began spiraling into uncharted chaos. The very floor trembled beneath us, the weight of our rebellion igniting an unstoppable force. "Push forward," I shouted, now clasping Ren's hand tightly. The path to victory lit beneath our feet as we rushed toward the next level, determination electrifying every movement. We burst into the corridor leading to the heart of Syndicate Command, where chaos morphed into destruction at our hands, our allies surging forth alongside us, shadows intertwined in the brilliant flames of willpower. "This is our moment." Ren roared, summoning every ounce of strength as we broke free through the chaos engulfing us, charging into the open space that held the Syndicate's leadership cloistered within. As we entered the chamber, the oppressive air thickened, darkness settling into murky corners. A vast expanse lined with screens revealing the dark underbelly of Arcopolis. The Syndicate's leaders, betrayed by their own arrogance and power, stood wide-eyed against a backdrop of impending doom. "It's over," I bellowed, drawing their eyes to us, a tide of fire and defiance surging forward, as we prepared to confront the architects of our suffering. "This city no longer belongs to you." One figure stepped forward, a high, ranking officer with a steely gaze, a smirk of arrogance ghosting their lips amidst the chaos unfolding in the periphery. "You think you've won," they spat. You cannot hope to control what you do not understand. Perhaps, I replied, pulse racing, nerves igniting my resolve. But your grip has weakened. We are taking our city back. You will answer for the lives lost. Your reign ends tonight. With that declaration, we plunged into the fray, a symphonic clash of wills igniting a battleground of loyalty against tyranny. Shadows danced as firepower intertwined, each movement an echo of resilience rising against shadows of despair. Together, we surged forward, breaking defenses, reclaiming what was once ours. One by one, they fell before us, realizing the irrepressible spirit of a collective that sensed the ache of freedom on the horizon. We were no longer fleeting whispers. We represented a community willing to bear the weight of change. As the last of the syndicate fell, silence enveloped the chamber. Exhausted breaths mingled with fading echoes of battle. Together, we had faced our enemy, dismantled their power, liberated our city. Chest heaving, I turned toward my comrades, breathing in the intoxicating thrill of victory as a flood of relief washed over me. Arcopolis stands strong, I shouted, my words imbued with promise. Wren grabbed my shoulder, her eyes sparkling fiercely. This is just the beginning. Griffin placed his hand on my back, a whisper threading around us. We've only begun to shape our destiny. As the dawn flickered on the horizon, a gentle glow highlighted our triumph, a promise of rebirth waiting just below the surface. We emerged from the stronghold, stepping into the shivering light. A city transformed, a united people ready to reclaim their legacy. Together, we would reshape Arcopolis, forging a tomorrow promising hope and illuminating the paths darkened by despair. Standing hand in hand, we turned toward our city, each heartbeat resonating with freedom, woven into the very fabric of what lay ahead. The winds of change swirled around us, the sun breaking free from the embrace of the horizon. As we rose, unified by resilience, the city thrummed beneath our feet, alive with possibility. And as we ventured forth together, the future twinkled like stars against the murky night, tangible hope etching our names among the stories yet to be told. The fight for Arcopolis had just begun, and we were ready to carve the hopes of a new dawn into the annals of history.